Hey, welcome back to the channel. Subscribers, AZ Dirtbag had a question. Is this motor reliable as a Subaru motor? Depends what size Subaru motor and what you do with it. This guy, initial swap was $1,700. For me to get a 2.5 back then, it was like $4.5 grand. So that's why I went with this, and the wiring was much easier. There was no passive key. None of that stuff. It was just a matter of, wiring up the basics, the fuel pump, injectors, coils, stuff like that. So it was easier to do. And I didn't have to cut the back of the car any wider to fit the dual cams. As reliability goes, as long as you change the oil when you're supposed to, make sure the plugs aren't fouled up, because the thing is basically works like a two-stroke. It eats oil. So I have the little oil level sender wired into the idiot light on the dash. So if it does get low on oil, I know. That was kind of downfall. People would drive these cars, never change the oil, and it run out of oil and seize them. As for boost equals blown apex seals, yeah, you turn the boost up too high on anything or run lean, shit breaks. Piston motor, the rings will expand, they'll butt up against each other, ring lands, brake rings, score up cylinder walls, blah, blah, blah. So when I bought this, it was cheaper. If I had, say 10 grand to burn, like a turbo 2-liter fuel injected motor for your bug would cost, I would sit here and do a full Subaru swap. Subaru gears, they make the ring and pinion flip kit. If you already have an IRS, that cuts down on a lot of the work. So you can run a Subaru transmission, the 20 EJ motor, turboed, and you'll make like 200. It'll be a fast daily driven. The radiator could be smaller. You don't have to run, twin oil coolers like, got dangling over here in the corner. So yeah, it comes down to, what do you have to spend? It's like a 20 EJ motors, like less than $2 grand now. And then Outback sells a standalone ECU if you don't know how to wire shit. So you figure there's 3. Super Gears wants $2 grand for their trans kit. You're at 5. Plus some extras, it's like you definitely do it under like 10 grand. But that all depends on what you can do yourself. Like I said, this motor, as long as you, change the oil every 3,000 miles, or at least make sure it's full and not too burnt, because these little guys here are the little oil injector ports that go into the into the rotor housings, and oils the cylinders. You could pre-mix the oil. That's what a lot of people do with their more higher horsepowered rotaries, so you don't have to worry about that. But as for reliability, other than the track day where I had a boost pipe and something else popped off and ate a apex seal, it still drove home on one rotor. It was still boosting, it ran, got me home. The things that stop me are the stock Volkswagen parts, like axles and second gear. But as for reliability, as long as you keep up on the maintenance like anything else, you're fine. Say you have like a Chevy 383 or even like 454 with a solid cam. If you don't adjust the valves all the time, you're going to burn the valves. Pretty much same thing with the stock bug motor with solid lifters and whatnot. Even boosting a stock bug motor, you cook the oil, cylinders get hot. Now if you go to AJ Simmons' website, that ass clown's turbo kits, if you look at it, like the 1600, he'll boost like 10 pounds all day long, but as the motors get bigger, the boost goes lower because the cylinders are thinner, and you're gonna have issues like the Honda boys and just blowing out cylinders and whatnot. That's why they have block cars, or they re-sleeve their blocks. So do I feel they're reliable? Yeah. Do they get good gas mileage? No, not one bit. but it does fit under the deck lid quite well. It does go stupid fast, and it does sound different. You know, a lot of people expect Subaru swaps, and when they see a rotary swap, they trip out. But to each their own. Like I said, you know, if I had stupid money to spend, you know, I would do the 2.5 with the Subaru gearbox, and yeah, but I don't have that kind of money. But yeah, it all, you know, fits in there pretty well. If you do the Subaru swap, you might have to notch that out a little, or run no timing gear covers, or try sliding the motor slightly forward, and that should clear it. Since your IRS, depending which CV joints you run, you could run some angle on them. Your only concern is the transmission going to hit the torque tubes for the rear suspension. But yeah, other than that, as you see, the motor's in. It's mostly wired back up. I got both the intercooler and the fan back on, and the coolant system and stuff like that. I've been sidetracked because my little Putt 2000 Honda that they stole doesn't shift right. I believe they ran it up a curb and jacked something up. So I have to drive it D3 is first, then I have to put it into second, then back into D3 and go straight into overdrive. So I picked up a little junkyard automatic transmission. Yeah, Honda with an automatic, who would have thought? But I deal with a lot of traffic and don't need to be, you know, clutch, just move 10 feet. So that's why this is taking a little longer. Kid's been sick, working 6 days a week now to cover costs of fixing everything. And but yeah, back to reliability issues. You know, yeah, this is the second motor that's been in here. Like I said, I was racing it stock. Boost is like 6 pounds, and I'm pushing 14 now. You know, the EJ motor, you know, hopefully you get a turbo one. If you're going to go through all the hassle of swapping it over. And like I said, if you're already IRS, I'd fork over the money for the super gear setup, because the Whittle gear setup for just the main shaft first and second and all that shit was like $1,200. And you know, if you're going to go buy the Subaru stuff, half of the time comes with the transmission, or it might be better buy like a whole Forster or something like that. That way you have all the connectors, the cabling, the ECU. You know, there's a guy, he's not on the web, but he had a silver 68 fastback, and he managed to put the 2.5 NA in it. He lowered the motor, trimmed the intake down so the rear engine cover would fit, and then he used a bus automatic transmission to run it, because for whatever reason he didn't want it to be a stick shift. So it's definitely doable, or easier to do in squarebacks, notchbacks, and fastbacks with the Subi swap. This thing would just stick out the top, and you'd be one of those weird people with a Type 1 motor and a Type 2 car. But yeah, if you got the money, or you got like a hookup on the whole car, you just gotta research out what ECU you're going to run, and you know, how exactly can you make it work right. Because I know for the buses, they sell the Shuren oil pan, they sell headers for the NA setup. If you already have a bus trans, they sell a bell housing adapter that uses the rest of the bus trans and a bolt-in Subaru setup, so you don't really need the adapter plate and stuff like that, because you're running, you know, that, I guess that you would call that adapter plate bell housing. So yeah, I like the rotaries. I think they sound cool. I mean, been wanting to do this for a long time. Finally, you know, got around to doing it. And you know, if I had another car different than a Bug because transmission issues, I would probably do another rotary. But like I said, yeah, if I had stupid money, yeah, go full Subaru drivetrain. I mean, if you're not into maintenance and weird stuff like that, you know. But oil, water, I don't think Subaru motors eat oil at all. Not like a Honda or this car. So, you know, to each their own. I mean, like, you know, there's a guy with a K20 Honda motor in the back of his Bug. And then, oh, let's see, there's a green Bug with a Subi swap. And his radiator's like quarter size of mine. It's like as big as the intercooler for this thing. But I'm just ranting and rambling. So yeah, if you want, you know, a weird sounding motor that goes pretty fast, like I would go with the Series 6 motor because the company that makes the chip that I have in this is no longer in business, and I'm going to have to go standalone if I go way bigger on the turbo, like a GT45 or something like that. I'm going to need way more fueling. So, but then again, with the Subi motor, you know, if you run the factory setup and get past, you know, the ABS and all that other weird shit you got to wire in, or just have the computer wiped clean, like the Chevy people do for their LS swaps or buy the Outback one, you're going to need to get it tuned and whatnot. Or try running Mega Squirt, like, oh, what's that guy on YouTube? He has that silver squareback turned into a truck, Doug something. He did a Subi swap, and he went through a bunch of weird tuning issues and whatnot. But Subaru swap might be better for you, depending how big you go. The 2.5, you're gonna have to notch this out or run no timing belt covers. The 2 liter, nothing has to get cut as far as I know. And if you go smaller than that, you might as well just turbo your stock motor, because that's just pointless for like 110 horsepower, or put a Vanagon motor in there. I don't know. Yeah, adapter plate from Kennedy, you know, $600, whatever the Subaru motor is, and how much wiring, fuel pumping, and junk like that. I know with the Subi motor, you're gonna have to flip the intake around, do a weird 90, or blow it through the firewall here in the luggage compartment, bring it back, which some people do. Or if you got a TIG welder, cut the throttle body, have it face straight up. But there are some restraints into the tracking. The coolant system's kind of weird, from what I read. There's a hose that everyone was trying to block off, but it can't be blocked off. But you gotta do your homework. You know, whatever you feel is your best bang for your buck. You know, if you're doing long driving, yeah, Subaru's better. I mean, like, this might get close to 20. I know the Subaru motor will get way better than that in this lightweight of a car. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Reliability wise, depends, you know, if you do the maintenance, you know, how far you push it, yada yada. But cost wise now, these motors have gone up, the Subaru motors have gone down. You know, it's like shit, you can buy a whole like Forester for like $3,500, and you'll have the motor, trans, axles, wiring, whatever you need. Trying to buy a whole RX-7 these days is like 10 grand. Yeah, even for the Ultra series if it runs right. So thanks for the comments and questions. Like, subscribe, and I will see you guys hopefully next time with this thing actually under its own power running. Wait.